Riley Nichols, thanks for
Eric
doing this, man.
BP. No worries, man.
Usually calls me EBP, but Eric BP works.
EBP, baby. For anyone who doesn't call him EBP, please start calling him EBP.
It's gonna catch on now.
Oh yeah,
I kind of like it. But anyways, yeah, let's just dive into it. I think people probably want to hear, what your experience has been working with us at Agent Launch. So yeah, just why don't you give us a quick intro? Tell us a bit about you, where you're at, what your business is, and we'll kind of take it from there.
sure. Thank you. So I'm Reillys Nichols. Obviously, thank you for the intro. We have the Bricks Real Estate Group in Calgary. So mainly residential real estate resale stuff, and then obviously some new construction. I've been running PPC campaigns for probably since I started. So I guess coming on 5 years now. Obviously worked with different service providers throughout the years. Some are really good, some are really bad, some are kind of in between. We're probably around that 100 to 150 deals a year, give or take. Volume is probably somewhere in that 70 to 80 million a year range. And I'd say probably about 50% of that is coming from PPC, which is awesome. Before we had worked with a different PPC company, and they were doing a good job, but it wasn't as hands-on. I could tell that they were kind of just using a out of the box kind of cookie cutter solution. And then obviously I met you guys at EBP Media, represent, and then yeah, we kind of skyrocketed from there.
It's our old company, just to be clear. It's Agent Launch now.
Agent Launch. I'm part of the old school. So EBP Media, now Agent Launch. But yeah, I think it's been probably a year now, give or take. I think
about that.
I think it's been about a year. And then yeah, I mean, I think when we launched originally with our PPC, we we're probably doing maybe 20, 30 deals a year. And then switching over and having Eric kind of run everything. Last year, I think we did around 53 or 54 transactions with PPC. And that would be probably 450K in commission, maybe 500K in commission. And that was just with one ISA. So pretty incredible what you can do if you add some layers onto that.
Yeah, so this is kind of awesome to hear, right? Like I think there's a lot of people out there who are new to this model, right? And I think that it's always good to just hear from people who are kind of doing it at a high level, because the point in what we're teaching and what we're basically executing for/with people is to build something that actually scales. Because a lot of people get themselves into like a position where they're working on a new client acquisition strategy, but they're not really thinking like, is this going to scale with me yet? So basically, you're doing 50% of your deals from Google, from the ads we're running, and with one ISA, and that worked out to 50. You said 54 last year, 2021.
Yeah.
Cool. So what would you say is like the most important thing for people to know, like getting into this kind of world? Obviously, you have an established structure that we've helped you build that, you've been running for a little while. And essentially why I wanted to bring you on here is because, this is what we're helping people build. And so if you just want to elaborate on like because a lot of people I find when they get into this space, like they start with the hesitation phase, I call it, which is like, is this really going to work? Like, how's this going to look? And like, you and I have huge conviction in this, but what would you say to someone who's kind of like just early stages, doesn't know too much about this world, or even if you have any advice for them?
I think probably, well, I mean, the biggest thing is going to be patience, and it's going to be patience with the leads themselves and nurturing them over time. It's also going to be patience with the learning curve itself and trying to understand how PPC works. And that comes from systems, but also learning how to cultivate these relationships over time. I think most people think PPC is sexy and they get leads and they're going to call the first lead and they're going to be like, hey, Eric, I'm ready to buy $1 million house today. And it's not the case. Totally. I think everybody's looking for a quick fix solution. But as with any marketing and real estate, you need to give it at least 6 months before you start to see any traction or get used to everything. So I think patience is key in everything, especially learning a new system, learning a new way to generate business. I mean, if you started door knocking day 1 versus day 90, your skills and your client acquisition is going to be completely different than when you first started. So patience is a big thing. I think another thing for me and just advice for other people would be, don't try to learn everything, right? Like that's also key. Like even the world of pay-per-click campaigns and Google is huge, and you can get deviated really quickly trying to learn everything. and then all of a sudden you think it's not working, but it's just because you're not actually going to produce business anymore. You're so focused on learning everything of this new system. I think that's one thing that's been helpful with you guys is I understand how it works, but someone else is handling that side of the affairs for me so that I can focus on what I'm good at, and that's selling real estate, not setting up PPC campaigns. Now, it's good to know that stuff, but again, work to where your strengths are best suited, right?
Yeah, and I want to talk about something else because I think a lot of people that jump into our program, they are a little hesitant around when to implement the ISA. And this is the conversation I always have with them is like, as a team leader and someone looking to grow a team and someone looking to scale up, like that ISA role is so important to give you the time leverage you need to focus on, warm opportunities, people lower in the funnel. So your ISA can kind of handle all the top of funnel stuff and do all the nurturing. What would you say to someone that's kind of like on the fence about like going down that path early? Because as you know, like you need that to get the leverage in your business to focus on your clients, to focus on generating referrals and delivering your value at the highest level. What would you say to someone who's kind of like a little hesitant to pull the trigger on an ISA?
So the thing that's going to happen is, I mean, if you're trying to set up a PPC, you're probably in one of two positions. Either A, you're trying to increase your level of business from where you're already at, or maybe B, you don't have business and you're trying to acquire business also. So the first thing is, if you already have an established business and you're rocking and rolling and you start implementing PPC campaigns, you're going to run out of time, right? Like as a solo agent, if you're spending $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month or whatever, you have all these inbound opportunities coming in. And then you also have maybe referrals coming in and maybe social media. Hopefully you have some other marketing pillars that are still working alongside your PPC efforts. But there comes a point where you only have so many hours in a day. And you can only speak to so many people. You can only track so many conversations. You can only set up so many saved searches and go on tours. And I think the problem that every agent comes to is they still have that cyclical mindset where you're going to have this peak and valley of real estate sales. And that translates into online leads too. If you're a solo agent, you're going to call. You're going to create these opportunities. You're going to get busy. And then as soon as you get busy, you're going to be servicing those clients. Your campaigns don't stop. People are still coming in and registering. The lead flow doesn't stop, but the service does stop if you don't have someone there all the time watching and nurturing those opportunities. And so I think at the same time, especially if you're new setting up, pay-per-click campaigns and stuff like that, and setting up an ISA and building out that department, as you're learning it, you might as well bring someone on that journey and you guys learn it together at the same time, because you're going to have to teach the same thing that you just learned to an ISA in a very short period of time if you expect to scale anyway. And if you need something in 6 months, someone might be like, oh, well, I'll get an ISA in 6 months. It's like, no, if you need something in 6 months, you start now, you hire now, you train now. It's going to take 3 to 6 months to train that ISA to even operate and be in unison with kind of what you're doing anyway. So anybody who's on the fence about bringing on an ISA, it's basically like how fast do you want to scale your business? If you want to go really slow, fuck it, do it on your own, right? Call these people. But if you want to actually scale and take some big steps forward, you bring that person on early. And one thing that I learned too is you might need to go through an ISA or two, because it's not an easy position to fill either. And it's not an easy role. And to get that right fit where everything's in harmony, sometimes it might take 1 or 2 people, and it could take 6 months anyway to get that person that sticks and works really well with your business. So do it sooner rather than later, if not immediately, and think long-term instead of short-term. Everybody's focused on getting results within 2 weeks. Think about what your business will look like in 6 or 12 months or even 2 years by the shit that you're doing today.
Yeah, and I want to highlight something you said, which is the peaks and valleys of real estate sales is a real thing already. But when you start generating leads online and closing deals, your business goes like this. And then, like you said, you get too busy servicing clients, and then your leads fall off and you start going like this. And you find yourself in a position where you're really busy and you also need support. And you're not in a position to actually start working on building that support system. Then you're in that position now. So you need to get ahead of that process. And so I think that's really good advice. Another thing I know you and I have been working on for a little while is the video strategy side of things, and what our clients, the ones that are getting the highest level of results right now, are not only people who are working with us on the PPC and ISA side, but also people who are leveraging a lot of my coaching I'm doing in YouTube and video. Do you want to speak to maybe that side of things a little bit?
Yeah, I think the video content is super key right now. YouTube is big because obviously we're able to get a lot of content in one space and have content live somewhere for a long period of time, which is nice. I think the world is shifting with real estate a lot too, and we're seeing a lot of people relocate from a whole bunch of different places. So having that content that's living somewhere for a long period of time is super effective because, I mean, you and I have talked about it a lot. Video content tends to build trust, and live videos can live somewhere where maybe you have a good conversation with someone online. They're going to go do their research before, you know, they engage you to actually, you know, be the representative if they're buying or selling something. Having that video content as kind of a backbone, it allows the prospect to nurture themselves without you proactively doing it on your own. Because I can call someone and tell them how great I am and everything I can do for them, but they need to also have that conviction in themselves. And I think video content is super key for that. If you combine that with some other things, like you have a good online presence on social media, you have a good Google business presence, you have some video content to support what you're saying on the phone, usually that's enough to warm up someone. So at least you're having conversations and moving the needle forward in the relationship. I think that's super key. The other thing is just like, it's more engaging, right? Like even on TikTok and Reels and stuff, everyone has a pretty short attention span, but they're gravitating more towards video versus text. Text can capture people and get them engaged, but it's the video content that's like sucking people in and bringing them back for more. And that's, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're on the same page, but that is exactly where the trend is going, whether it's long video content or short poppy video content. The video is just king right now. I think anybody who's not doing it is just leaving some opportunity on the table.
I think it's key. And like, I mean, that's what we're doing right now, right? Is this is social proof for anyone inquiring about working with us. And this is a video intended to, quite honestly, build trust with anyone who's watching it. And I think that's exactly the type of stuff that we promote and we teach in our program, is like leading with value and making yourself visible, because someone who's visible will beat someone who's better any day.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're visible, you're going to do more business than someone who's just better at their job. Like, so you need to be visible and you need to create those opportunities with a consistent, predictable lead source, such as PPC, Google Ads. Leverage yourself highly through software, people, and money. Those are the three big points of leverage. Mm-hmm. Namely an ISA, your advertising money, your systems and systems automation that we set up. All that kind of stuff is going to put you in a position of leverage to grow. So anyways, Reilly, I really appreciate you doing this. Thanks for the, you know, not only just the testimonial and kind of stamp of approval, if you will, but also the little snippets of advice. It's always good to hear from people who are doing this at a high level. So I guess my last question is, what would you say to someone maybe on the fence with some of this stuff? Because, you know, as we've built our business, we've moved away from offering part of the solution, mm-hmm. right? And we've moved into our ownership program where we offer kind of the full solution. And mm-hmm. What would you say to someone who's kind of on the fence, who maybe has part of the solution, maybe doesn't have any part of the solution, but is considering making a move into this world?
I think the biggest thing is just, I mean, as a business owner, and just, you need to decide where you're at. Like, do you want to take this to the next level or do you not? And I think that's the biggest part. Is I think a lot of people, sometimes they get fearful with maybe the additional workload it's going to create, maybe the additional expenses that are going to have to be spent. Maybe it's not the right time, or whatever the bullshit excuse is that most people have. At some point or another, you're going to have to make the decision: am I ready to scale my business, and am I ready to take this seriously and take it to the next level? And if you're not, well, then don't do it, right? But if you are, and you're serious about, you know, creating opportunities for yourself and your team and your family, and whatever the reason is that you maybe got into real estate in the first place, like, you need to come to grips with yourself and just make that decision and just decide. And the thing is like, at some point or another, you have to take a leap of faith. Like, I think most people who even get into real estate sales, it's a commission-based income, right? You have to decide your own destiny. You have to dictate how much income you're going to make based on your activities every single day. And you need to make investments in your business. You can't expect to grow if you're not feeding that machine. You're not watering that plant. A plant is not going to grow with just sun. You need to add water. You need to add nutrients. You need to have the proper soil, the right environment. And figure out where you're going to allocate your resources. Online lead gen is beautiful because it's also predictable. I spend more money, I get more leads. I have the services and the equipment and the people to service those leads. We'll do more deals, we'll make more money, our receivables go up. It's all very relative. And one thing that drives me nuts, just like a little piece of advice, is you talk to a lot of agents nowadays and it's like, oh, I only work by referral. Yeah, I only work by referral. I've been doing this for like 100 years. I only work by referral. And I think that's amazing. I think it's great that you work by referral, right? You've built enough trust in your community that people want to work with you and they refer family and friends, and that's great. But are you actually growing and scaling? And is your business getting bigger if you're never bringing in new blood, right? You're never bringing in new opportunities. You're just working within your own network. And I think that needs to be a really strong component. But the online lead thing is beautiful because A, it's scalable. You can, more money we spend, the more leads we get. It's predictable. And these clients, people think online leads are shit. Oh, they're not good. I can't work them. These are human beings on the other end. These are human beings on your website. An online lead is the same thing as if you're in a car dealership and I'm a salesman and I'm sitting in the lobby and someone walks in the door. That's an online lead registering on our website. If someone walked in the door, are you just going to let them walk around, look at the whole showroom and then leave? No. If they come in, you're going to greet them, you're going to service them, you're going to offer value, you're going to see if you have a problem to their, or a solution to their problem, and go from there. That's the same thing as an online lead. If they're on your website, they're walking into your virtual storefront. Call them, greet them, say hello, build a relationship, add value. That person, you never know which online lead will turn into a lifelong business partner, a lifetime referral partner. That will become your new referral source. But I think people overlook and don't understand that these are people on the other side too, not just a form they filled out and they're on your website. And that's key.
Yeah, totally. And I think what I use this exact same analogy with a storefront. And I think, another important thing to understand is like, what is your client acquisition cost and what is your lifetime value of a client? Well, with online lead generation, if you set this up properly, like we do for people in this program, it's very reasonable to acquire a client for $500 to $1,500. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing that, if your average commission is 10 grand, well, right away, that's a 10 times return on your money. But if that person does a second deal with you, maybe they do a buy, then they do a sell, then they do another buy, there's 30 grand. Maybe they refer you to someone else. There's another 10. Maybe they do a second deal. There's another 10. It's not a stretch in real estate to have these 30, 40, 50 to 1 CAC to LTV, like your lifetime value of a client versus your customer acquisition cost. I'm glad you said that because they are people, they are in the end of the line, just like any other business. And it's important to understand that. So anyways, thanks for the insight, Reilly. I appreciate you coming on and doing this. I think it's super valuable. So I appreciate everything you're doing. And what's your goal for 2022, just to cap things off?
We'd like to do 150 units and we'd like to hit that 100 million in volume.
Let's do it, brother.
Let's go, baby.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thanks, Eric.